it to the payroll. 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 Create. Create. Certification. Counting. Occupation. Wage. Challenging and interesting and challenging occupation. Workers with formal education may earn higher wages than those without. Those without. Wage. Salary. Applicant. 지원자. Impressed. Training. Meet. Familiar. Marks. Skills. 신고. Then with a business wants to work as a manager. The store with carrier application form. Completion fair, graduation, in fact, job fair. Job fair 중에 list, newcomer, part-time, previous job, secretary, sending, tidy, training, apply for aptitude, be advised to do, decade, be advised to do, employ, insufficient, minimum, party, plentiful, profession, 이건 근데 크게 낫긴 하겠다. 개 열심히 했네. 진짜 열심히 했다. 아유. 떨어지는 게 말이 안 된다, 진짜. 아, 진짜 객관적으로 열심히 했다, 진짜. 싫고 떨어졌어, 봐. 아무 게 없다, 진짜. 암기펜이 어디 있더라? 아, 내가 어디다 놨지, 암기펜? 이런 게 있을 것 같긴 한데. 존나 열심히 했지. 말해 뭐해. 아, 어디다 놨을까? 신기하네. 이거 아니지. 암기펜을 보신 분이 계신가요? 알바펜 진짜로 없더라. 아. 모르겠네 진짜. 아, 아파. 내 암기펜. 진짜 어디 있는지 모르겠네. 아, 수발. 가만히 있을 수도 있겠다. 어디 놨더라? 아, 에바야. 어딨어? 어디 놨었지? 여기 없고. 이런 데는 그렇게 하는 게 느낌이. 있겠어. 자리 약간 지원자 충족시키고 캔디데이트 하일리 매우 리퍼런스 참고 추천서 엘리자블 태백이 있네. 여기 지금 여기 권리 매니저래요. supervisory profession 능수 prospective specialize they specialize apprehensive entitled 자격을 주다 entitled payroll 대상합니다 recruit certification 자격 occupation 직업 occupation wage 임금 application form 신청서 completion 완성 job fair 직업 공모회 sending 발송하다 tidy 단정한 training 인하받아 apply for 신청하다 지원하다 attitude 재능 attitude We admit to. We advise to do. We advise to do. Decade. 10년. Insufficient. Plentiful. 이거 profession. 직업. Attitude. Professional business attire is required of all staff giving presentation. Code. Dress code. Concern. Policy. Comply. Regulation. Employees must comply with the regulation governing counter use. Agree to fulfill. Must observe. Or argue to fulfill the action. Regulation. 규정. Exception. Management decided not to make any exception to the rule. The teacher should not to make any exceptions to the rules. Adhere. All staff should do their best to adhere to the company's policy. All students should do their best to adhere to the company's policy. Adhere. 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 Severally. Severally. Those who share company data with outside parties will be severely punished. Refrain. Guards should refrain from making personal calls during shift. Permission. The CEO gave management permission to hold the weekend work. Access. Gain access to client. Thoroughly. Please read the user manual thoroughly before installing this. Thoroughly. Please read the user manual thoroughly. Device. Approach. Approver. Police approach. Device. Approver. Please obtain the supervisor's approval before purchasing supplies. From immediately. Inspection. The facility inspection should be conducted at least once a month. Inspection. Arrangement. The manager made arrangement for purchase new arrangement. Procedure. Negative. Mandate. The board of directors has mandated an increase political for the board of directors has mandate. I'll give mandate to them a mandate effect. He effected a sudden change. Secondary effect. Take effect. Drastically. Fines for breaking rules have been drastically increased. Drastically. According to the guidelines. Neighbor. Chinese promotion enabled her standards. Constant. The store received constant inquiries about its new constant act. The new act made the act of merging with another company. The new act make it easier to file personal income tax online. Compensation. Bam. Obligation. All researchers have an obligation to publish at least one paper every year. Authorize. Allocation of funds must be authorized by management. Prohibit. The museum prohibits visitors from taking pictures. Abolish. Congress decided to abolish taxes on imported food. Abolish. 폐지하다. The museum prohibits. Authorize. Enforce. All departments must enforce the no smoking policy. Habit. Enforce legislation. Restrict. Access is restricted to authorized personnel. The committee unanimously voted for the new export limitation. Raise a restriction. 오늘 3일차까지 봐야지 그래도. 사일차까지 봐야겠는데? 아니다 5일차는 봐야겠는데? 쉣. 쉽지 않겠구나.
Hello everyone. I recently took the TOEIC for the first time and got a high score of 970. So I came to you with a video titled TX Study Method. Since the test I took was relatively easy, the relative rating system of the TOEIC meant that even one question was significantly deducted from my score. So I got 3 questions wrong. One on the LC section, 2 on the RC section, and ended up with a score of 970. My basic English skills are decent, and I really enjoy learning English. However, even if I had no English background, if I adapted my study method to my own schedule, for example, if I studied for 1 week using this method, and you extended it for a month or 2, for someone with no English background, I believe I can easily achieve the same high score as I did. To briefly explain the TOEIC, it is divided into 7 parts. It's actually divided into LC and RC, and LC is divided into 4 parts. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then RC is divided into 3 parts, 5, 6, and 7. Also, the most important thing about TOEIC is that it's a time test. What this means is that the same type of questions are repeatedly given with only the content of the passage changed. Therefore, I want to tell you that this is an exam that you can do well as long as you put in enough effort. Now, before I explain the detailed study method, I'll briefly introduce the workbooks I use. First, for vocabulary, I use Hackers Talk's Past Exam Review. For workbooks, I use the latest TOEIC Electrical Workbook Apple published by YBM. Those are the two. Yes, and here's a tip. As you can see from my workbook here, it's blank, right? I divided the LCRC into these sections and made them into exam-like sheets to solve the problems. And now, for LMRs, you don't have to buy them. You can find a lot of them online if you just fill them out. I printed them out and practiced with LMRs every day. I think the most important thing is to dedicate 200 minutes and study as if it were the actual exam. Now, I'm going to talk about how to study, starting with vocabulary. I use this book, and I'll show you its structure first. This book is divided into 30 sections. As you can see, there are words, pronunciation symbols, and example sentences and meanings next to them. So, when you study, I definitely recommend studying both vocabulary and example sentences. Here's another tip. In the light green part, it says, this is how it appears on the TOEIC. It shows frequently appearing points on the TOEIC. For example, this word is used like this preposition, love. This word and this word are confusing. So TOEIC focuses on these kinds of things. It says so. So, if you read all the way to the light green blank,
연두색 중간까지 읽으라고. 아, 이거. 오케이.
it will definitely be helpful. And if you look at the end of the day, there are TOEIC complete words. So there are 800 point words and 900 point words. My goal was 900 or higher. So of course I looked at those words. But depending on your target score, you can study them on your own. So this vocabulary list, I read it once in total. If you feel like your vocabulary is really weak, it would be good to read it 3 or 4 times. And you should read it at least once and bring it to the test center. However, the one-time reading I mentioned wasn't just a quick glance. I studied 3 or 2 words a day, from day 1 to day 2 or day 1 to day 3. And I checked the words I memorized that day plus the words I memorized before and accumulated them. Yes, and after memorizing the words, you might wonder if you really memorized them well. In that case, it would be good to take the test yourself. But Hackers provides a lot of materials for free. So if you type in the Hackers TOEIC test generator online, there's a function that randomly generates a test. So I recommend that you utilize that as well. Yes, and now, I think we'll get to that point for vocabulary. Before we wrap up the vocabulary section, I want to emphasize that vocabulary is the most fundamental part of English. They say 90% of English is made up of vocabulary, so vocabulary is incredibly important. Therefore, I really want to emphasize that vocabulary is the most important thing in TOEIC study. Okay. Next, I'll show you how I studied LC. How I studied LC. First, I divided it into these parts. As I mentioned, LC is structured in part 1. Here, a picture appears, you listen to the audio, and you choose the explanation that corresponds to the picture. I actually marked it like this, XXO. That's because, while the part is obviously easy, sometimes you'll think, oh, what, did I get it wrong? Quote, and there are choices that can easily become difficult. In these cases, you can easily use the method of incorrect answer elimination. So, since TOEIC is characterized by unconditionally finding the correct answer and the rest even using words like that, even if you feel a little confused when you solve it, but the rest are all X, then there's no choice but to write this as the correct answer. So, I'm telling you that it's good to use the incorrect answer retroactive method where you select this as the correct answer. In the case of part 2, for example, this, when I actually studied, I used it like this. You can't see it well. Of course, I rated the wrong one.
왜 가려지지?
Hello, this is TOEIC Guide. In this video, I'm going to tell you why TOEIC is so easy. I'm sure 9 out of 10 people watching this video don't know this. Without it, it's virtually impossible to get a high score. These days, TIEC is so difficult. But did you ever wonder if it's easy? Then you click on the right video. By the end of this video, your thinking will have completely changed. You'll think, TIEC is so easy. Why did I even bother studying? And it'll become clear how to study going forward. For those of you who are new to me, let me briefly introduce myself. I graduated high school with a level 8 in English and a level 9 in Korean. I even went from a 660 to a 980 on the TOEIC in just 1 month. The TOEIC is so easy that even I, a former English major, was able to get a perfect score. Why do I keep saying TOEIC is easy? You can understand that by looking at the TOEIC's purpose. If you understand this purpose, you'll fully understand why TOEIC is an easy test and be able to study accordingly. That's how you can easily get a high score. If you study without understanding this purpose, you'll end up going around in circles, taking shortcuts right in front of you. So now, let me explain the TOEIC's purpose. Simply put, TOEIC is a test that tests your ability to use English effectively in a corporate setting. It tests your ability to use English effectively in a business setting. But do you know what's important in business English? It's clarity. Clarity. Imagine you're sending an email to an overseas client. What's the most important thing in that situation? Clear communication. Let's say you're sending an email to an overseas client and you're using abstract sentences. You're using indirect sentences that can be interpreted in multiple ways, using ratios, allusions, and metaphors. What happens then? You'll be criticized for being a hypocrite. Your company life will be difficult. Clarity is crucial in business situations. Imagine writing a contract. Every clause in the contract must be extremely clear. There can't be a single ambiguous or vague sentence. A single ambiguous sentence can cost the company hundreds of millions or even billions of won. Because TOEIC is business English, clarity is paramount. That's why sentence structure isn't unnecessarily complex. Conciseness ensures clear communication. Therefore, sentences are relatively concise and rarely abstract. Therefore, understanding the vocabulary and sentence structure makes interpretation easy. To help you understand, let's compare it to the CSAT English test. Do you know what the CSAT English test tests? Simply put, the CSAT English test assesses whether you can read English text well or whether you can read English textbooks for your major in college. What about college textbooks? They're full of abstract concepts. They cover topics like the principles of management and marketing, software, and modern art. In business English, there's a stark difference between clearly conveying meaning and asking questions like, what time is our meeting today? And please finalize the budget by this Friday. The CSAT English test requires you to understand these texts, so it assesses a variety of skills: reasoning, critical thinking, and perspective taking. It's a test that assesses assesses not only your English skills, but also your language and reasoning abilities. But what about the TOEIC? You don't need both language and reasoning skills. Let me reiterate, language ability and reasoning ability are not included in the test intent. Of course, there are questions that require a minimum level of reasoning ability. However, TOEIC reasoning problems, unlike CSAT reasoning problems, can be solved even by an IQ of over 70. Everyone has that level of reasoning ability. Even I, a Korean language level 9 student, can reason to that extent. Because of this intention, the question types in CSAT English and TOEIC are completely different. CSAT also evaluates reasoning ability, which is why the question types are like this. The most appropriate change of heart is choose the most appropriate word to fill in the blank for sentences unrelated to the overall flow. Choose the most appropriate order of the text. These reasoning questions account for up to 50%. In contrast, TOEIC questions only require reasoning about 10%, and even those 10% are very easy to reason about. I solved CSAT problems to film this video. CSAT English is really difficult. No matter how many words you know and how well you master grammar, it's impossible for someone like me, who wasn't good at Korean, to do well in the English section of the CSAT. It assesses not only English ability, but also language ability. The CSAT, TOEFL, and TAPS all assess critical thinking skills. Conversely, the TOEIC doesn't assess language or reasoning ability. It focuses on clarity. The questions are simple. You can solve them all simply by interpreting them. Except for part 5, there's almost no problem-solving skill involved. In fact, it's hard to call part 5 a problem-solving skill. It's all about quickly solving problems using grammatical knowledge. So strictly speaking, it's hard to call this skill. Part 6, which accounts for a large portion of the TOEIC reading section, requires reading more than 90% of the text. You have to read 9 out of 10 passages to solve them. Unlike the CSAT English section, where you read only specific sections and make inferences, you almost never have to read 90% of the text to solve them. It's easier to think of questions you can solve without reading everything as bonus questions. Since TOEIC is a business English test, it doesn't assess your presentation skills or language ability. Instead, it assesses how clearly and thoroughly you can read business documents. Therefore, TOEIC is a test where interpretation is the sole focus. If you can interpret well, you'll be able to align perfectly with the test intent, and you're bound to get a high score. This is why TOEIC is easy. Since you only need to master interpretation, there's no need to master everything else like the CSAT English section. Those of you who have watched this video up to this point might be asking, I see that interpretation is key to a high TOEIC score. So how do you interpret well? Quote, I'll explain what it takes to do so. Let's look at this sentence first. Can you interpret it? It's short and simple, right? It's a simple sentence with a subject, verb, and object. But most people won't be able to interpret this sentence. Why? Because they don't know the words. Stipulate confidentiality. That's a difficult word, isn't it? Let me look at one more sentence. Can you interpret this sentence? You're having trouble interpreting it, right? Because you don't know the words. If you don't know the words well, you can't interpret well. No matter how excellent the reasoning and contextual understanding are, or how well you master grammar, you can't interpret well if you don't know the words. What happens if you don't know the word well in the TOEIC test? Which prioritizes interpretation? If you don't know the word in the TOEIC test, which is a primary tool for interpretation, you inherit a high score. In other English tests, you can compensate to some extent with problem-solving skills, but you can't with the TOEIC. That's how the test is designed. That's why the TOEIC places a tremendous amount of emphasis on vocabulary compared to other English tests. If I had 2 months to study for the RC section, I could memorize just one word. It's so incredibly important. Most people don't know this, which is why their RC scores don't improve. Even though they constantly solve past exam questions in RC lectures, their RC scores don't improve. Vocabulary is this important, and to interpret well, you need something else besides vocabulary. If you don't know this, it'll be difficult to get a high TOEIC score, given the test intentions, right? Then, let me explain the second factor. Let's look at this sentence first. It's quite long, right? But it's just one sentence. If you look closely, you'll see that the sentences are all connected by periods. Can you see the structure of this sentence at glance, or is it too complex to analyze? However, the vocabulary level of this sentence isn't difficult. The only thing that's difficult is the word reject at the end. The rest of basic TOEIC vocabulary. Words will appear on day 1 and day 2 of the vocabulary, but even if I know all the TOEIC vocabulary, I can't interpret these long and complex sentences. It's because of the complex and difficult sentence structure. Sentences of this level of complexity appear frequently on TOEIC. You should assume there's one in every passage. As I mentioned earlier, the TOEIC RC is a single tool for interpretation. What would happen if you couldn't interpret such long sentences every time they appeared in a test designed for this purpose? In a TOEIC test that prioritizes clarity, it's nearly impossible to get a high score by simply interpreting them with rough words. The passages in question are structured to encourage this. So, here comes the second key point of TOEIC. Developing an eye for sentence structure. Developing the ability to understand long, complex sentences at a glance. This is different from reading comprehension and reasoning skills. Reading comprehension, or reasoning skills, required in other English tests refers to the ability to understand abstract or difficult concepts. In contrast, the interpretation skills I'm talking about here simply refer to easily interpreting sentences with complex structures. The sentence I showed you earlier has a complex structure, but it doesn't require reading comprehension. If you're in a middle school student who can grasp the sentence structure at a glance, it's a sentence that can be understood. Complex structure and the need for reading comprehension.
Also, the manager
Are two completely different issues. Developing an eye for sentence structure is really important, but among the TOEIC reading students I know, do you know anyone who's actually trying to develop an eye for sentence structure? Almost none. Most people just study RC textbooks, pass exam questions, and listen to online lectures because they're studying in a way that deviates from the test's intended purpose. Their RC scores aren't as good as their LC scores. So how can you develop this eye? How can you develop an eye for sentence structure? That's why you need knowledge of sentence structure. In other words, grammar. Wait a minute, you're about to turn off the video because we're talking about grammar. It's not an obvious point, so please listen. Why should we study grammar? Grammar isn't something you learn simply to complete grammar questions. It's not just necessary to complete the grammar questions in part 5. Grammar is necessary for good interpretation. That's the primary purpose of grammar, to help you interpret well. But why? After 12 years of studying grammar, and even in TOEIC RC online lectures and basic TOEIC RC books, is it so hard to interpret long, complex sentences? Even after studying for over 12 years, it's because you don't apply the grammar you learn to real sentences. You learn grammar through our books or our online lectures. But learning isn't enough. You need to apply the grammar knowledge you learn to actual TOEIC sentences. You need to develop a habit of analyzing TOEIC sentences. Why does this sentence look like this? You need to analyze the structure. When you read, you'll come across sentences with complex structures, but most people just roughly guess the words and move on. That will absolutely ruin your interpretation skills. When you encounter such a complex sentence, you need to analyze it, thinking, why is this sentence structured this way? Analysis sounds daunting and difficult, but it's not. It doesn't even take 5 minutes. Whether you ask questions on the RCP and bulletin board, the TOEIC community, ask good TOEIC test takers around you, or even ask GPT, you need to analyze and understand why the sentence is structured this way. As you do this, you'll develop an eye for sentences. Then, at some point, you'll be able to understand long and complex sentences as easily as short ones. That's when a high RC score becomes possible. Repeating RC textbooks, RC lectures.
고마운 행위야.
And past exam books won't lead to a high RC score. You need to develop your ability to read sentences to a certain extent. That's why when studying for TOEICRC, a long and complex sentence like the one I mentioned earlier came up. So don't just let it slide. Develop the habit of analyzing. Invest 5 to 10 minutes to study the sentence structure. This will accumulate, and your interpretation skills will improve rapidly. I talked a lot so far, but there are only two things you should focus on going forward: vocabulary and sentence analysis, and TOEIC reading. Everything else is actually secondary. That's why I say TOEIC is easy, because you only need to do these two things. Unlike other film tests, you have a clear set of tasks. Similarly, when I first studied for TOEIC, I focused almost exclusively on vocabulary, grammar, and sentence structure analysis for the RC section. If you were to prepare for 3 months, I devote 2 months to this, and the remaining month will be spent solving textbooks and past exam questions. Those of you who watch my videos will know that I intentionally emphasize the importance of vocabulary and grammar in almost all of them. But that's just the way it is. The TOEIC RC exam focuses on interpretation and clarity, so you can't emphasize anything else. So please keep
Okay.
and I for analyzing vocabulary and sentence structure. If you
오프닝 1절. applicant 지원자. 필요 조건. requirement of teacher. meet 충족시키다. candidate 지원자. applicant candidate highly 매우 confidence in confidence in interview hire training reference 참고 position eligible employment employer manager supervisory proficiency prospective specialized apprehensive prospective 미래 specialized 성공하다 specialized chemical apprehensive 걱정하는 many people feel apprehensive 비거랑 important feel apprehensive recruit certification 자격증 occupation 직업 wage 임금 occupation completion job fair sending tidy training apply for aptitude 의도 be admitted to apply for 신청하던 거 aptitude 재능 be admitted to 인정받다 입장을 be advised to do decade 10년 plentiful profession 전문 직업 plentiful attire comply 준수하다 comply regulation 정책 exception 예외 adhere 거부하는 거 adhere adhere the rule, comply the civil, severely, 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 엄격하게, severely, refrain, 거부하다. God should refrain, 삼가다. refrain, permission, thoughtlessly, 지나치게, 슬쩍. Can you thoughtlessly, prefer? thoughtlessly, 슬쩍, thoughtlessly, thoughtlessly, proper, 음. inspection, inspection, 점검. arrangement, arrangement, inspection, 검사. arrangement, procedure, 과정. negative, mandate, mandate. effective, sudden, in effect. in effect, 효력, 효력. drastically, 급격하게. drastically increased. enable, promotion, enable. constantly, act, new. compensation, compensation, 보상. compensation. ban, 금하다. obligation, authorize, 권한을 abolish, 폐지하다. enforce, 시행하다. Congress decided to abolish taxes on imported food. Enforce, our department must enforce the no-smoking policy. enforce. legislation, restrict, legislation, restrict. laser, 오늘 됐을 거니까. 피곤하다. 언제 하노 이거? 우유유유유유유. bend over. 몸을 아프시다. bend over. by oneself, by themselves. They get used to 익숙해지다. get used to. Is it okay with you? If it's okay with students, in case of loss, item, legal, job, let go, let go, ruler, stop, busy, curriculum, dress, finish, have a problem, ing, large, low form, loudly, plus, protect, seldom, theft, witness, witness, theft, seldom, seldom, 브렉 파는? 모르겠다. Accustomed. All our employees are accustomed to using the new design software. Accustomed. My student is accustomed to using. By doing so, my students are accustomed to using EdTech. Corporation. Demanding. Also, Mr. Jenkins is a demanding supervisor. She has a reputation for being fair. She has a reputation for being fair. Reputation for being fair. She has a reputation for being fair. Yeah. The technician will transfer to the automobile division after training. Automobile division after training. Compartment. Who has compartment? Request. Efficiently. Efficiently. The software has employees work more efficiently. Upon request. Category. Several category. Compartment. Submit. Applicant should submit a resume to the personal manager. Submit. Submission. Directly. Directly. Report. Contact contract. Submit A to B. 어떡하냐. 어려워. Day 3. Remind. Instruct. The manager instructed the staff to read the conference materials beforehand. Deadline. The team worked together closely and finished ahead of the deadline. Sample. Notify. Our staff applying for leave must notify their supervisors in writing. Our staff applying for leave must notify their supervisors. Announce to students. reveal her plans to other men. Perform money deserved, well-deserved advancement. The person with the highest performance evaluation deserved the Employee of the Year award. Mineral perform being performed. Assignment entire the entire release. The company released its annual report. Release date, press release. Extension of the deadline. Extension of the deadline. Which is an extension of the deadline. off를 많이 쓰는구나. Of the deadline. The extension of the deadline. Electronically. It saves time and reserved to send invoice electronically. Attendance. Attendance record. A certificate of attendance. Certificate of attendance. Absolutely. It is absolutely necessary that everyone in the world is in agreement with the plan. Delegate. Managers must be scared. Should be scared. In delegating responsibility to subordinates. Delegate sent to the trade fair, returned with a capital attentively. Stockholders listen attentively. Supervision. Close provision. Supervision. Control. The company's annual conference usually draws 800 employees from around the world. Division. Revision. Request. Efficiently. Demanding corporate. Division. Legislation. Restrict. Constant. Obligation. Prohibit. Abolish. Enforce. Arrangement. Inspection. Effect. Drastically. Enable. Mandate. Revision. the team manager will make revision to the proposal. Make a revision. Revised edition. Revised folder. Make a revision. Make a revision. And I will let my student make a revision about the classroom once a month. Reluctantly. Mr. Damon reluctantly agreed to cut the advertising budget. Danvers reluctantly. Client. Convey. Check. Convey. Acquaintance. The training program acquaints new employees with company person. Headquarters. Oversee. Natalie will oversee file. Involved. Concentrate. 나도 이제 피곤하다. 자자. 피카츄